Welcome to the Dork Forest. Jackie and her pals will never bore us. Shameless confessions
about our obsession
will make us laugh and smile. So let's explore the Dork Forest and dork out for a while.
Hello, you are listening to the Dork Forest with Jackie Cation. I, coincidentally enough, am Jackie Cation. You know the websites, JackieCation.com, DorkForest.com, TheDorkForest.com, if you enjoy a determiner. The Dork Forest is a podcast that's on all the platforms, your iTunes, and then I populated over to YouTube. It's on Stitcher and Pandora and Spotify, but wherever you listen to podcasts, hopefully it makes it available in 1,000 different ways. It is November, and I'll also use this for December. This month, I ask that you not donate to the Dork Forest. If you want to support the Dork Forest, you can. You can order from Amazon using the tiny link that just takes you to Amazon and you order like normal. You can buy merch on the store page on JackieCation.com. You can go to the Bandcamp DorkForest.com and buy extra episode and stories and stuff if you like to do that. You can come and see me do stand-up comedy, at which my tour is all over JackieCation.com. And in November and December, I'm actually on the road quite a bit, including Minneapolis and Madison, Wisconsin. So those are my... But don't donate. Don't use the PayPal button to donate. And if you're doing it monthly, know that your donation will be going to the LA Food Bank. Because what I ask is that you don't donate to the Dork Forest in November and December, and instead donate to your local food bank. Go to feedingamerica.com if you are in the United States, put in your zip code, and it'll tell you your local food bank. Or you can just Google the words food bank and the name of your town. That happens all over the world. You can do that anywhere in the world. But just for these 2 months, just help people around you. That's all I'm saying. Other than that, we should do the credits. Yes, Mike Rickberg composed and sang that song with Sarah Cohen, his wife, and he will sing his version of the Mexican hat dance at the end of the program. Patrick Brady fixes this audio, and Vilmos still fixing JackieCation.com, bless his heart. Anyway, let's get into the show. Hey, it's Jackie Cation. I'm in the living room again, but this time with Adam Conover. I just saw you do stand-up for the first time in a million years. It was delightful.
Thank you so much. That's so nice of you to say, because I admire your stand-up so much.
Well, look at us with a mutual admiration society of stand-up comedy. Adam Conover, Rangers of the Dork Forest, you should know, has a show on Earwolf called Factually.
Yeah.
Factually. Get it? It's like actually, but with facts.
Exactly. It's almost a joke.
Huh?
But it's not quite.
So close.
Of a title. And unbelievably, there was not already a podcast called that.
That is kind of unbelievable that there wasn't.
I know, but there seriously was not. There was somebody with a podcast called Factually Incorrect, but they're defunct. Anyway, okay. Yeah, I interview experts and stuff like that. It's really cool. Check it out.
Super fun. Now, also at Adam Conover, Conover.
Yeah.
On the Twitter. Is that also on the Instagram?
Pretty much everything. Twitch, too.
You got it.
I got Twitch. If it's on Venmo, there's a hyphen. That's the only place is different. So if you want to send me $10,
a note. Buy Adam Conover a glass of coffee or something.
Tea. I drink tea.
Do you do an iced or?
I do hot tea. I do iced tea if it's more like I want to wash down a sandwich. Hot tea, but I switched from coffee to hot PG Tips black tea. Mm-hmm. Wonderful. So much better than coffee. Easier on the stomach, more soothing, and you can drink it all day as opposed to coffee where you're like, with coffee you're like, I need a little boost. And you drink 1 cup of coffee, and you're like, now I had way too much, and I'm grinding my teeth. And tea doesn't do that.
Tea doesn't do that. And you're having a black tea. You're having a caffeinated
caffeinated black tea.
Adult beverage, essentially,
yes.
right?
Yeah.
And how do you take it? Let's just find out.
Just nothing in it. Just pure black tea. Yeah. That's how I like it, but you could put creamer in it, like
sure,
in like coffee.
like the British do.
Yeah,
because I like an Irish breakfast tea.
That's
and
nice,
and I like it with a little milk.
That's nice.
I bought a tea cozy and everything.
That's great. You got to try PG Tips. Have you tried PG Tips? So I got my recommendations from a British friend,
right?
Siobhan Thompson, who I was like, I want to start drinking tea. And there's so much bad tea in America.
Yeah.
And she was like, get PG Tips, which is the most popular one in England, but you can get it in grocery stores in the U.S.
TIPS?
TIPS, yeah. Letter P, letter G, TIPS. And it's excellent. And if you've been drinking Lipton or some other shit,
right,
and then you try this, you'll be like, oh, I didn't know tea could be it's kind of like the Starbucks of good tea, where it's just like a solid dependable step above the shit you were drinking.
Right.
You know?
Right. It's I'm pro that. I'm working on 10 pounds of Vietnamese coffee that I bought in Vietnam, like a crazy person. So what I'm doing is I'm mixing. I'm mixing. Would you like to try it?
Sure.
Yeah. Have a sip. And here's a scoop on. It's a mix of a Dunkin' Donuts and a Vietnamese, because the Vietnamese I'm nursing it.
So you've combined it with Dunkin' Donuts?
Yeah, I do like 2 scoops of Dunkin' Donuts and 1 scoop of Vietnamese, or I'll just make a Vietnamese iced coffee.
Is it like it's not the French coffee that you see in Vietnamese restaurants?
Yeah, with the usually it's got sweetened condensed milk and stuff, the iced.
Yeah, but I mean, there's a brand.
The brand?
It's like you see this orange can. You know what I'm talking about?
I couldn't find here's the thing. So I bring it back. I bring back 2 small 8-ounce daily bobs of it.
Yeah,
and have them. I'm like, well, I'm doing good. It's got a barcode. It's got to be available on Amazon, right?
Yeah.
At the very least. And I cannot find it. Months go by, like 2-3 months. Finally, I Facebook message the guy who was the tour guide on one of our, in the town where I bought it. And I said, can you send me 10 pounds of this? I'll pay you. And he goes, yes. Yes, I can do whatever you want if you'll pay me. And so the coffee ends up costing $20 a pound, which is what coffee can cost here, right? But that's with shipping and me giving him $60 for doing it. And he was like, and he literally was like, he got the Western Union wire. He goes, you ever want to do this again? If you want to do this regularly, if you want to do whatever you want to do, I'm in. Because $60 in Vietnam,
it's a lot.
It's like half a year's wages for a normal person.
I really want to go to Vietnam. It seems so interesting because
it's a delight. It seems
perfect. Really cool. Very interesting history with the U.S. Obviously, horrible history, but then also the French. I think about that a lot because. I've only had Vietnamese food in the U.S., but like the banh mi and the Vietnamese iced coffee and stuff like that is so much this combination of French and Vietnamese food. And it really makes me think colonialism, so bad, killed so many people.
Good for restaurants.
Violates their liberty. Great for food.
Really good.
Makes good food.
Been trying to work on a bit that nobody wants to hear about how sort of European nations go in. Or just white people. Let's just cut to the chase.
Yeah.
White people make people poor. So then they have to figure out how to turn chitlins into something edible. And not only edible, fucking yummy.
Yeah.
And that's what poor people do. Poor
people food.
Right. There's an Armenian dish that I love that people in Armenia are like, what? It's called Kortenbort. Kortenbort. And it is, which I'm sure is Turkish all it is the shitty leftover grape leaves from wrapped grape leaves, the ones that ripped.
Yeah.
In a stew.
That sounds great.
It's delicious.
And they're like softened up?
Yeah, well, you cook them with like a little bit of meat and a little bit of tomato and And it's and all it is just it's sort of like a collard green mix, but it's lovely.
I love that. I love how many good foods are just like it's what does Anthony Bourdain call them? It's like it's not poverty food. It's like peasant food. Peasant food is the word.
Right.
Like so many great dishes. So many great French dishes are peasant food. So many great Chinese dishes. And then also I was trying to work on a bit nobody likes. And by the way, what I was going to say about colonialism is what it does that's good is it brings those food cultures and they collide and they create beautiful new tastes.
Exactly.
So the fact that Vietnamese food has a baguette in it and it's like a fresh baguette, but then with
cilantro and pork and
that's great.
We're in Vietnam 3 days in, and I'm on an old people tour on a bus because I don't speak Vietnamese, and so Andy and I, we're by day 3, we're all just kind of looking around, and finally one of us gets the courage to say to the Vietnamese tour guide, "Hey, are we going to get any banh mi?" And he goes, "You want 75-cent street food? I've been bringing you to fine people's homes where they're making you the finest meals." And we're like, no, keep doing that. But we would also like shitty street food.
This food became famous in America in 2013, sir, and we want to have it.
Oh my God. And he was like, yeah. And so he took us to the Anthony Bourdain one.
Oh, great.
That he went to. And it turns out it was delicious, as it always is.
Yeah. Well, the bit that I was trying to work on is how the popular food in every city is the cheapest, shittiest food. Like in the U.S., it came from me like starting to really tour as a comic for the first time, and then you go to a place and you're like, I'm in Philly, I got to get a cheesesteak.
Right.
But then that ends up. So many times I've actually just gotten the cheesesteak at the airport, which is like...
I got buffalo wings in Buffalo.
Not having,
it was terrible.
Yeah, and you're not really having the experience of it, right? But then I also realized every time I did that... Oh, and the worst is Cincinnati Chili, which is...
it's a thing?
You've never had Cincinnati Chili?
Is that what I'm supposed to have when I go to Cincinnati? I guess so. All right.
Oh, it's this very specific kind of chili, where what it is it's a spicy... it's not spicy, sorry. It's not spicy. It's like a tomato sauce with cinnamon and other spices in it. And it's served on spaghetti. And it's also served with grated cheddar cheese on top and chopped onions and occasionally kidney beans. It's like a very, very specific regional food to Cincinnati.
It sounds like a pasta dish.
It is. They call it Cincinnati Chili.
Okay.
But it is a pasta dish. It was invented by like a Greek man who lived in Cincinnati and then created a small chain.
Right.
And you should have it and get it and have it while you're there so you see what madness people are doing.
Right.
But it's not good. It's distinct and it's interesting. I wouldn't say it's good, but
right.
Please don't be mad at me.
Like Scrapple. Have you had Scrapple?
No.
It's a Jersey, probably Pennsylvania thing. It's just some sort of hash.
Yeah.
And you're like, well, this is garbage food. And it's fine. It's just, essentially, it's just to empty the fridge, scramble it all together, put the egg on it to make it fancy. Maybe. I can't remember with Scrapple.
And it's very good. And look, Cincinnati Chili is fine. And if you have positive feelings about it, that's fine.
Please. No, and love it. And,
I'm just, we're not talking Texas barbecue here in terms of like a true... But so
we're not talking a croissant made in rural France with artisanal butter.
But so local foods are so much just cheese on carbs. Like 90% of them is bagels, pizza, cheesesteak.
How about but then across the globe it's the dumpling and the pocket sandwich.
Oh, love that.
And who doesn't want a pierogi or whatever the pierogi is everywhere else,
now,
right?
I would love to do a food travel TV show just about dumplings, right? Because every culture's got their own dumpling.
Sure do.
And they're all you go a little wide. Jamaican
do your people
beef patty,
have does your family, was there a dumpling happening?
Let's see. I mean, my family's really just American white people that have been here for a long time.
So was there ever chicken and dumplings? Did they ever make that?
Yeah, we would make like...
That's what Andy's family made.
Yeah, that kind of thing. Yes.
They'd drop some dough into a chicken broth and boil it up.
That's very nice.
And then all of a sudden there was chicken and dumplings. We never had that. We had an Armenian thing called Manta, we called it as a child, but I guess the correct pronunciation. I'm surrounded by my people here. They're in the know. I can make Manta, which is called Monty, but it looks like a wingnut. It's a piece of dough with a piece of meat in it, and then squished together to look like a wingnut. And then you bake them all. And my grandmother used to make them in lots of 1,000, and we would eat them like popcorn until she would like literally slap our hands and go, "This took me 8 hours." They go in soup.
The amazing thing about dumplings, about all types of dumplings, is that they're hard to make for a food. Like all the cooking I do is I love to cook, but I just like put oil in a pan and I put shit in it and I make it hot and then I eat it. Like if there's more than one step, I don't do it, right? I just like...
Do you put it on top of anything?
Yeah, I put it on rice or something like that.
There you go.
Start the rice cooker or start the pasta boiling.
Right.
Put some shit in a pot, make it hot, make a stew, make a pasta sauce, make a stir fry, and then
it's
I'm
like
done,
that.
right? Yeah, but a dumpling...
But you're willing to cut up a thing.
I wanted to I'll chop. But a dumpling, you have to chop and then cook a thing and then take it out and then make some dough and then roll the dough, cut the dough, put it in, fill it, pinch it.
Cook it again,
boil it, fry it, whatever you're going to do to it. And that is so much work. And that's what I'm shocked that people ever found time to do. Because like those steps are like not necessary.
There's this, we're not...
And they're necessary to make dumplings, but they're not necessarily to eat anything. You know what I mean?
Right. My grandmother would make this. There was this stuff called boreg, and it's a fried cheese pie, and she would make fried boreg, and she would make baked boreg, and baked boreg had phyllo dough. You know that stuff that you got to stack, and there's 1,000 pieces of it?
Oh, God, phyllo dough's so good.
It's so good. And I made it one time, and she tasted it, and she was like, "This isn't bad. Did you make your own phyllo dough?" And I said, No. And my stepmother, I remember from the back, she was like, Ma, she has a life. She's not making her own phyllo dough. And I was like, well, I'd probably make my own. She's like, what did you do? And I said, I bought phyllo dough. And she said, and my grandmother was like, that would be better if you made it. But, she's right. You have a job.
You shouldn't feel responsible to make everything.
Right.
I have a theory about cooking, which is that I think everybody should cook more. I think we've lost a lot of our cultural memory for cooking. I think a lot of it is because people want to do this fucking Blue Apron cooking where they want to see a pretty plate and they want 3 courses and they want to feel like it's like like they think that's what cooking is. And so they think it's got to be some fucking craft project. And like, look, you got shit in your fridge. You put oil in the pan. You make the shit hot. You put soy sauce or whatever you like on it. You taste it. Is it good or is it not good? You
eat it in any case.
You eat it in any case.
You're usually alone.
And then exactly. And then you do that for 15 years.
Yes.
And then you know something about cooking.
Right.
And you don't need to be, not everyone is going to be Martha Stewart. You don't need to aspire to be Martha Stewart. You just are trying to get dinner on the table.
Right. In a lot of cases, you're just trying to eat a food and you're trying to eat as healthy as you can in a simple fashion.
And like my parents, like the kind of cooking they did when we were growing up and the kind of cooking they taught me to do is like how to make simple pasta dinner, olive oil, onion, saute onions, put ground beef in there, bottle of ragu and then boil pasta. And that's like, I just knew how to do that. And now, if I'm cooking for myself, I go fancier than that. I make the tomato sauce from scratch because I've learned how to do it.
You chop up some tomatoes.
Yeah.
That's all.
Exactly.
You buy yourself some oregano.
Yeah.
It's not the end of the world.
But you can start with the simple version, and then you learn to fancy it up, I know how to make my own chicken broth now. I don't do it all the time.
I just made a giant pot of stock.
Isn't it the best?
Want to take some with you? You need any stock? You're good?
I would.
Sure. Oh, my God. I've got stock.
It is liquid gold.
It is liquid gold, but I have too much of it. So, because my mother-in-law gave me a stock pot as tall as this couch.
Incredible.
So, and I eat a lot of chicken because I almost only want to make chicken. And so I buy whole chickens and then I have them cut them up. Because I have an unsubstantiated belief that they are somehow less full of disease. If I buy a whole chicken and then I cut it up,
then if I buy,
right. Well, because then it's never. It's 3 people haven't touched it and stuck it in packaging.
It's also much cheaper to do it that way.
Yeah, and then they just hand me a chicken, and then you have the back, and you have the neck, and you have all these things.
That's exactly what I learned to do.
And I stick it in the freezer, and then I have bits and pieces of onions as I cook that I also stick in the freezer, carrots and onions and celery.
That's the way to do it.
And I stick that in the freezer, and then I combine them all with I forget every time, but like more herbs and some black pepper.
That's great.
And I boil it for a good 4 or 5 hours, and then I strain it, and it's a pain in the ass, but then I have chicken broth for years.
It's incredible, and then you can make so much. You can use it to make soup, or you can use it to make a risotto or something like that.
Yeah.
So good. I used to do that quite often. I do a little bit less now because I have started mostly cooking vegan at home. I just don't buy meat. But my girlfriend likes meat, so I'll cook it. She'll buy it.
Are you vegan?
I'm not vegan, but I like to try to eat vegan when I can.
Well, and vegan just means you're just not eating any meat or cheese, right?
Yeah, or dairy. And so, let's see. Today, I have so far eaten vegan all day long.
Okay.
But if I was really starving and I was, on the way home from this, I would, and there was something really good, I would be like, I'll get it,
Yeah.
But so it's really just sort of I try to make choices that incline me towards probably being vegan.
To eating more vegetables and but you do grains. You do carbs or whatever.
I eat grains.
Yeah, there you go.
I totally eat grains. I got an Instant Pot. I cook a ton of stuff in the Instant Pot.
People are talking up the Instant Pot.
You should. I think
we have a rice cooker.
Rice cooker I use rice cooker too. Love the rice cooker. Instant Pot. So much of fits the type of cooking I do, the one pot cooking.
Right.
With
my sister uses it for dried beans. Do you use it for dried beans?
Exactly, that's what I was going to say. Dried beans in the Instant Pot, incredible.
Because it's not overnight, right, or something.
Yeah, no, you can cook dried beans in an hour or 2.
That's amazing.
It's incredible, and it is.
Do you have a favorite dried bean?
Yeah, so I just want to note that you're pointing at me.
I'm pointing at you.
Because
I do. A dried bean I never eat, but is my favorite dried bean.
You mean do I like it? What is my favorite one to eat? Right
yes.
now, what's my favorite one to make a macrame out of or whatever it is?
No, please do not make a diorama of the people you most admire.
Which one is my favorite? Black-eyed pea might be the most rewarding because it's very fast to cook even if you don't have an Instant Pot.
Oh.
And it sort of breaks down and makes a really nice broth. Like for a starter, I'd say get
Black-eyed peas and lentils are both amazing for just cooking.
Lentils are amazing.
Yeah, lentils are just good.
Yeah.
That's just good times.
And also for vegan cooking, because chicken stock, homemade chicken stock, as you know, makes a soup so good.
Mm-hmm.
But bean broth is a really amazing replacement for it if you're cooking the bean from dry.
Do you ever stick in like a stick of kombu? Kombu?
No, I should do that.
Yeah, which is that seaweed stuff. It adds a certain depth to it.
Yeah.
I was macrobiotic for 1 year, except for beer. Guess what? I wasn't macrobiotic. But I like that. Then the year that I was macrobiotic, but not, was the year I fell in love with the aduki bean. Aduki. I've heard it pronounced both ways.
I was trying to correct you.
No, but it is also, it's both. And it's just a tiny red bean.
Yeah.
And it's frickin'
I have that bean. I have a bag of that bean, and I haven't found a reason to use it, because it's a sweet bean, right?
Right.
What should I do with this bean?
You should get a strip of kombu and cook it with that.
Yeah.
And then you could just put an onion in it as well.
Yeah.
And then that will temper some of the sweetness of it.
Mm-hmm.
It's because my favorite squash.
And then eat it.
And then just eat it.
Okay, great.
Right, just on top of rice.
Okay.
And then there's also my favorite squash is the sweet dumpling squash, which is it looks kind of like a delicata. It's stripy, except for that it's shaped like a tiny pumpkin.
This sounds really nice.
Yeah, it's nice. It's autumn. Did you know that? We're coming on Thanksgiving here.
I bought an acorn squash the other day. I got to use it for something before it goes bad.
And it won't. We have an acorn squash. We've had it for about a month.
You got to do the beans from dry, though. Let me just, for the folks listening, if you think you've eaten a bean, you haven't really, because
canned beans are just a different food.
And they're fine.
And they're good in their own way.
But if you're cooking a bean from dry and you're getting the broth, you saute the onion too and everything, you have no idea how good just a bean and olive oil and onion and salt can taste, and how fulfilled you can be by that as a meal.
And now, do you saute the onion before you put it in the Instapot, or do you just put it all in there raw, call it a day?
This is a good question. If it's a fast cooking bean, I will do the saute the onion first, and then I'll put the bean in with the water and then just let it go. If it's a long cooking bean, I will cook the bean about halfway in the Instant Pot for an hour. Then I will separately cook the onions and carrots and any kind of other sort of aromatics, saute them, and then put them in. For
that last hour.
So I'm not overcooking the onion.
Oh, right.
And
So
really
it isn't just
a
crazy mishmash. Hey, are you playing that Zelda game?
This is a segue to what we actually prepped to talk about.
We were gonna
my dorkdom could be Instant Pot, one pot cooking. And,
it could be.
And regional food stuffs. I clearly like food.
Yeah. Well, and we and I'm clearly hungry because
me too. I haven't eaten since lunch.
Right. It's I had a giant breakfast, but it was at probably 10:30, 11 o'clock, and it is now 5:30 or whatever. So our lives.
Stick the giant breakfast.
But there's a new Zelda? The new Zelda game has cooking in it. So that's my transition to
Breath of the Wild.
Yep.
Yes. Really good cooking in that Zelda game. I did a lot of cooking in that game. I was a little disappointed by one element of the cooking in the game, which is that you can discover these sort of special recipes. Basically, if you combine the different ingredients, you can just sort of choose, what's going to go in here? And you can sort of it'll create a dish based on what you put in. It'll be a spicy fruit stew.
Wow.
And you're like, wow, I made a spicy fruit stew, and that'll have certain properties. And then you can make special dishes
consistently.
Consistently. Like there'll be recipes that are hidden around. People are if you put this together, you'll get a special dish, like a macaroni and cheese or something like that.
Yeah.
And you can make that. But then those dishes, they look pretty, but they don't really do anything super special for you. And I kind of wish that they did.
Oh, right. They offered a power of some sort.
Yeah, I wish they offered some kind of power. They don't really, but it's still very delightful to cook in that game. The food looks really good. Something that Japanese video games are really good at is and anime too, and Japanese culture almost generally, cartoons, is rendering food really well.
I remember that from Dragon Ball Z.
Yes. And the game Final Fantasy 15.
Okay.
One of the best things about it came out a couple years ago. One of the best things about it is you go into restaurants and you order like particular meals, and then they place down in front of you the most beautifully rendered, like glistening version of the meal, and like close up, of the camera on it.
Yeah.
And it looks
like an HD.
Yeah, an HD, and it looks so fucking delicious.
Yeah.
And that does give you special powers based on what you eat. And there's a lot of games that do that. The Yakuza games have you order specific food. And then something that my girlfriend Lisa and I were noticing in Lisa Hannah-Walt, a wonderful cartoonist and illustrator and creator of the Netflix show Tuca and Birdie, which I always plug. We were noticing that if you watch a lot of like anime, like Hayao Miyazaki movies or even just any sort of anime, there'll often be these shots of just someone cooking dinner. Like they'll just do this interstitial of like, okay, we had our adventure and now we're back at home, and then here's mom or
grandma,
one of the main characters. And like you'll see them chop, put the ingredients in the pot, stir it up a little bit, and then serve the food to everybody, and everybody eats the food, and they all say, wow, delicious, oishi, right? They say delicious.
Oh, really?
And it has no bearing on the plot, right? Like, you don't need to see all these people cook and eat for each other. But it's so nice, and it's just a nice break from everything else that's happening as, like, just a restful domestic moment. You know?
Right. It's just like, your life can't just, that's the B plot. That is the message of all Japanese anime or anime stories, is that it can't be adventures all the time. Yeah. You got to sit down and have dinner with your mom occasionally. There's a lot of nice domestic, there's a real focus on domestic simple pleasures. Yeah. In a lot of Japanese media that I really relate to. That's awesome.
Yeah, it's really wonderful. And it's not, until I watched a lot, it took me this long to like notice that as being a thread that I really like. But it's definitely there. Yeah.
Now you've got me thinking about all the Miyazaki movies, and I don't know if you know this about Ponyo, but she loves ham. Are you familiar with the idea?
She goes, ham!
Ponyo loves ham. Yeah. It's a lot of that, and she stole the ham out of all the sandwiches. And it's good times.
It's really wonderful.
It is really wonderful. And that movie, it was complete banana land, is that Ponyo and the 5-year-old, because Tina Fey has left them by the lighthouse on that cliff to go help the senior citizens. She's like, I'll be back in like 3 days. You know where the cereal is. And so she leaves the mom. Yeah. And so then Ponyo is just there with the little boy, and then they get in with some ham sandwiches into a boat, and then they have their journey to go find his mom in at the senior center. So
it's been so long since I've seen this movie, but I love Miyazaki movies so much. They're my favorite.
You know what? I can't remember any food scenes in Valley of the Wind or Valley of the. That one. That's the one with the giant bugs.
Oh, Naushka in the Valley of the Wind.
Yeah,
I have seen that one.
Valley of the.
And I don't remember any food scenes in that one. That one is so similar to Princess Mononoke, and I think he almost remade it in Princess Mononoke.
I like Nausicaa better.
You like Nausicaa better?
Yeah, than Princess Mononoke. But I haven't seen Princess Mononoke recently, and I tend to watch Nausicaa on the regular.
I think Princess Mononoke might be the best one of his. But I mean, how can you even compare them? The Wind Rises, I thought, was unbelievably beautiful.
I don't know that I've seen that one.
That was his last movie before he recently came out of retirement and is now working on another movie.
Oh, okay.
But The Wind Rises is really, really beautiful, and it's about World War II. And
for or against? Do we remember?
Against the war, definitely. He's a pacifist, but so it's really interesting because Hayao Miyazaki loves planes.
Airplanes?
Like airplanes.
Okay.
And so this is a movie about airplanes, and it's a movie about a little boy who grows up to become an airplane designer. Okay. And he goes on to, I hope I'm not mangling the storyline, but he goes on to design the Zero, which is the iconic Japanese fighter plane. Right. And it's about how he sort of like regrets designing it, even though he loves the plane that he designed. Right. And, it's about like the romantic, I think he keeps saying something like, planes are a beautiful dream. Mm-hmm. It's like his sort of mantra. It's a gorgeous movie.
Porco Rossi
Porco, yeah.
Yeah,
Porco
that
Rosso.
one.
Incredible.
Rosso. Yeah, it was a gorgeous plane celebration of the airplane as well.
The thing where they said, the cliche and the title of a YouTube series, Every Frame a Painting. You've heard about film?
No.
There's a YouTube series called Every Frame a Painting that is like dissecting popular films. And I believe that phrase is from some other film critic.
Right.
But in the case of Hayao Miyazaki Studio Ghibli movies, it's literally true. Like every frame is literally a painting.
Right.
And if you pause any moment, it's like every single frame is the most beautiful piece of art you've ever seen.
Right.
Like just like composition is perfect, and like you could go see. Oh my God! We went to see his museum in Japan. Have you
my
been to that
gosh!
museum?
No.
Oh my God! So he
Didn't it burn?
Did it burn down?
There was a fire.
I don't think I heard that. I mean, it could
I might be
and I didn't hear it.
wrong. I might
Okay.
be thinking
Of something else. I hope.
know what
I
I'm
hope
thinking
to
of.
God. Oh, what is it?
I'm not the hero of this sentence, but here we go. The Wallace and Gromit studio.
Did that burn down?
Yeah, that burned down.
When?
But probably a year and a half, 2 years ago in London. They rebuilt.
Okay.
But there were a lot of the original sets and stuff got
Wow.
lost. Curse of the Were-Rabbit. Come on.
Oh no.
Yeah, which is because that's all stop action.
Yeah.
That's all instead of animation.
And they
I'll be
need
over
it
here.
and it's physical.
Yeah.
It's still animation, stop motion animation. But no, the Studio Ghibli Museum is a museum that Hayao Miyazaki designed. He designed the experience of going through the museum.
Oh, cool.
It's outside,
in Tokyo?
It's about half an hour outside of Tokyo. It's in like the Tokyo metropolitan area.
Okay.
And it's lovely. From the outside, it's beautiful. From the inside, it's beautiful. You have to buy a timed ticket, so you have to go to particular times. So there aren't crowds. And it's like you're walking through all these different exhibits. He does like this sort of like wonderland. It's mostly children, like small children who are there. But the most incredible thing is there's this part where you walk through this exhibit of an animator's studio. Like they've created, here's where animators work. Oh. And then every surface of this place, it's like 4 or 5 animators' desks, every surface of it is covered with original sketches from the movies that they have like put up. So like there's a table and there's like sketches all over, and then on the walls, and just like from all the different movies.
Yeah.
And so you're walking through, and it's like a shuffle because everyone's moving forward a little bit, and you don't want to hold the line. So you're just like stealing glances, like I need to absorb all of this incredible original artwork that's on the wall.
But it's sort of curated, like it's timed, so you only get an hour and a half, or you get an hour. Or?
Yeah, I think you can spend a little bit longer there. But yeah, like it's
there's a movement.
Yes, and there is a movie theater in this is why this is like a must-see destination. There's a movie theater in the museum where they play animated shorts that were created by Studio Ghibli, Hayao Miyazaki Studio, specifically to be shown in that museum, and that is the only place that they can be seen. And they play on a rotation. So you get to see one of them, but there's like maybe a half dozen others, and you would have to go another time to see those others.
And hopefully it would not be the same one.
Yeah, hopefully you get to see a different one.
Yeah, or you'd see the same one and you'd be like, oh my gosh.
And they're like for children, like it is.
They're just kids.
Yeah, I mean, it's really like, I'm not a Walt Disney guy, but it really seems to be like, what if Walt Disney really was that magical and never changed?
Right.
Like he just is. I know I said my dorkdom was Nintendo, but I love Hayao Miyazaki, so we can talk about that. There's a wonderful documentary about him called The Kingdom of Dreams and Madness, which is a really intense title for a documentary about a man who makes children's movies. But it's just him and his process and how he makes things, and it's incredible. Can I spew one more thing about it?
Oh my God, it's your hour, man.
Okay,
Go.
so you know how when you watch a Hayao Miyazaki movie, it's like the storyline always seems a little bit like dreamlike, like it moves from idea to idea.
Yeah.
Like most recently I watched Spirited Away.
Right.
And Spirited Away is like, this girl's parents get turned into pigs, and then she goes into the weird castle with all the demons and stuff like that.
Right.
No Face comes in. She has to work out that problem. And there's also this prince who is a dragon. And do you remember at the end of the movie, she says all at once, she's like, oh, when I was a child, I fell into the river, but something pulled me out of the river so I didn't die. And it was you, Dragon Prince. You're the spirit of the river. And he was like, yes, I am. Right. And I watched that with a friend who's like a Hollywood writer. Yeah. And he was like, you know, he could have foreshadowed that earlier. Like, why not tell the story where she fell in the river earlier and be like, I don't know how I didn't, like, die in the river. And then at the end, you can be like, it was because this guy is the river spirit. Right. But it didn't happen like that. It all happened at once, right?
It all just happens.
So it drifts from thing to thing. And I can tell you why that is. Why? Because I've seen this documentary. But you were about to say something.
No, please say it.
Okay. So the way he makes the movies is he just starts storyboarding them like at the beginning. He starts from like, what's shot 1? Now what's shot 2? Now what's shot 3? Like he's an animator. He doesn't do it with a script. He does it with a storyboard.
And this is not a draft?
It's not a draft. He just starts doing it.
Just doing it.
And then they start animating the beginning of the movie before he's done storyboarding. So that's why it's got this dreamlike motion. Wow. Because they are animating the beginning. So like
he hasn't finished the story.
He hasn't finished the story yet when they start the beginning of it. So he doesn't like do a second draft basically.
Right.
Or like he probably goes and says, oh, let's redo that shot or like insert some stuff later. But he's not like working it over like a fucking Pixar movie. And you know when you watch a Pixar, like I love Pixar movies, but they're a little bit overworked. It's like everything is like too perfect.
They've become more and more overworked as they do it because they're so proud of their process that they. This is what I've heard about the Pixar process: is that whoever is the lead writer of an idea has to have shot for shot an idea of how that movie will go. They tell the story. They tell every scene in that. You know, they talk for an hour and a half. They pitch the movie.
Yeah.
If it is accepted, they draw the movie.
Yeah.
And then they come back into the room. They do it 3 times. They make the movie. Apart. They tear it apart. They remake the movie 3 times, and then they release it.
Yeah.
So
it's like it's like a super intense writer's room kind of environment where like they go over it again and again. And that's why it feels like so super polished. You know?
Super tight if it's done right. But it's so interesting because the stuff that they're doing right now is so, in many ways, not for children.
Yeah, Pixar.
And and I was like, you know, I love children, and I think that they should get to be children. And there's plenty of cartoons for adults.
Yeah.
And there's manga, which is for all ages.
Yeah.
But Pixar continues to sell to children.
Yeah.
But I remember watching Up and thinking, did that woman just have a miscarriage?
Yeah.
And
well, I like those 3. So 3. In 3 consecutive years, they released, I forget what order, but they released WALL-E, Ratatouille, and Up. And those, in my opinion, are the 3 best Pixar movies, and they're the ones that are the most like, how the fuck did they get away with making this movie? Like a movie with a French name about a rat who makes food, and then the movie is about the life of an artist, basically, and like what the artist's life is like. Pretty incredible, right? But yeah, I mean, it's really intense. And then they just sort of went really far in that direction. So now all their movies are super sad, but also super overworked. The coolest scene in this Hayao Miyazaki documentary that is like, it's the polar opposite of that Pixar process. It's just this one guy, like just doing it from beginning to end. Obviously he has a huge team, but so he's storyboarding it. He's doing the last shot of The Wind Rises. He's like working on the storyboard for the very last shot. And so he like draws a little sketch. Here's what I think it's going to look like. And then he has a stopwatch in his hand. He closes his eyes, and then the implication is he's picturing what the shot is going to be in his head. He's just like running the film in his head.
Yeah.
And then he hits stop on the stopwatch, and he's like, okay, that'll be about 8 seconds long.
Oh, wow.
And then he's like, now I'm done. Because I finished. And, like, that's not how you get to work at Pixar. You're not just like, okay, I'm going to picture it. Yeah, okay, I ran the movie in my head. It's 8 seconds long. All right, that's how long it'll be.
Yeah.
Which is, like, so personal.
So interesting,
And that's why they're so chunky and strange by our standard. Like, if you're getting...
Or just foreign.
Yeah.
Just different.
Yeah.
Which is what foreign means. And that's why in the best way.
I've been having a lot of fun watching foreign films lately because you get, here's just a different process than we're used to, you know? And like it can get your creativity juiced a little bit. Oh yeah, you don't have to do everything the Pixar way.
Right. And it's a different perspective, which I think is so fascinating.
Mm-hmm.
Did you see Andy yesterday saw Parasite.
Yes,
Korean?
perfect example of this. Yes.
And he asked me if I wanted to see it, and I said no.
Why not?
I don't want to see a slice of life grifter movie. It's supposedly he was like, it was amazingly well done.
Yeah.
It was incredibly well written and beautifully acted.
Yes.
Like and
beautifully shot. It's
it just the whole package is there.
Yeah.
And then he told me it, and I literally was like, I'm gonna burst into tears for these people. And he goes, it's fiction. And I was like, let me tell you something. It's not fiction.
Yeah.
Because that is a slice of life as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah.
But it sounded incredibly powerful and incredibly well done. And he needs that kind of that's where he does get inspiration, is to see these different kinds of people doing this different work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's so specific. I learned a lot about, like, I've never been to Seoul. I believe the movie's set in Seoul. It looks like
I believe so.
And so I, started, this is what Seoul looks like. This is what it feels like to be there. This is what an artist from there thinks about inequality in Seoul, right? And thinks about the relationship between the classes, and like, there's so much I learned about that. And then, just the way he, I don't know. There's something about it that is it's just enough off kilter from what I normally get that it is like very inspiring to see.
Yeah, it fires different neurons for people, and it's neurons I don't want fired.
Yeah,
but some people, I'm good. I've been hiding those neurons for decades.
Lisa and I just watched a Wong Kar-wai movie. He's a Hong Kong film director. One of the best. And watch In the Mood for Love, very beautiful movie, very like slow, languorous, like sumptuous movie. But it's about all these people in these very like sort of high, upper class, or at the very least upper middle class, like Mad Men type people,
right,
in Hong Kong. But they're all living in these tiny little tenement apartments. And it's between these two people. Like, imagine Don Draper and one of Don Draper's rich mistresses, except the movie opens with them moving into the spare room that like an old lady has in a super high-rise apartment building, Right. And so just from that's the opening, is like, hey, do you have can I live in your spare room? And you're like, this person is extremely well dressed. They work in an office, they're wearing a tie, and they're going to live in this lady's spare room and like have dinner at their table. Like, that's a very, and I'm like,
with the older lady,
yeah. And I'm like, that's Hong Kong in the 60s. Like, that's what it was, at least to this director,
right?
And that was such a cool realization to have. And then everything is shot really up close and tight because it's such a
because to create the just
that cramped
that feeling of cramped.
Yeah.
Here's the thing: I've been to Hong Kong, and
so have I. Yeah.
The guy that booked the comedy club there, the comedy run, I went up to his apartment, and he worked at Bloomberg. That was his day job. And he had a 300 square foot apartment to himself. And he was about to get married.
Yeah.
He's now married and has 2 children. And I believe they have a 600 square foot apartment. And it was definitely a people kennel, right? It was this thing that was probably 60 stories, maybe 80.
Yeah.
Because of the way Hong Kong is.
The apartment buildings there are incredible.
Right. It's 85% of Hong Kong is national forest, supposedly. And then, so everything is super, super tall. Did you go on the ski lift thing to the mall at the top of the...
We did not take that, but we saw it. It just was...
Right. Yeah. It's just, there's a ski lift, and then you look down, and then all of a sudden you're in Blade Runner. So, But Michael Dorsher lived in this tiny apartment that he was like, well, we're going to get one because we're getting married, and we're going to get a double this size. And I was like, well, party on, man. And but it looked like, I couldn't even tell where the bed. Maybe the bed was a Murphy bed.
Yeah.
That he was living with. Yeah. But
I love that shit. I love city living, and when I saw one of the things people are protesting there right now is like the price of housing is too high there, as it is everywhere.
I think it was either $3,000 or $6,000 a month for his.
They also
apartment.
have massive amounts of public housing, right? And so they have these huge public housing high rises, and the buildings are gorgeous. They're painted really beautifully.
Yep.
And so just like the way residences are there, I thought was super cool. And I like dense living. I frankly hate it here in Los Angeles.
It's too spread out.
And too much space. We don't need this much space. And spaces, and this is the bullshit that people say about from the New York to LA move, right? People say, I'll have this argument with people so much, they'll say, oh, it's so much cheaper in LA. And then I'll say, actually, it's not. LA is the most expensive place to live in America compared to median income. The average rent compared to the income people make is the worst in America here. And like if you look at the actual, just the amount for apartments, it's like not.
It's changed a lot. I've lived here 20 years. Yeah.
Well, it's gone way up, right?
Yeah.
But then people say, I'll tell them that as a matter of statistics, it is not cheaper than New York.
Right.
And then they'll say, but you get so much more space. I'm like, hold on, you just moved the goalposts.
Wait a minute, that's it. That's a lateral move, my friend.
Okay.
Did you want to talk about the real thing, or do you want to talk about this other thing?
Yeah,
okay.
Exactly. Because space is a luxury. There's a certain amount of space that's a minimum you can have as a person. But like
Maria Bamford used to have an old joke about how the difference between LA and New York is really that in New York there's nowhere to cry. In LA, you have your car, and in New York, you have to buy a hat, and then just kind of roll it down. And if it's fuzzy on the inside, but canvas on the outside, so nobody approaches you, but it's nice and soft on the inside. Ridiculous.
I love it.
But did you? So you were always New York?
I still like New York, but I've lived here 5 years now, and I've found the things that I like, and I'm reading a book about the LA River right now, and I'm trying to get into it, and I'm trying to become an aggressive fan of Los Angeles sports teams.
Well, and here's the thing: is when I first moved here, I was told that this is true when you move to anywhere. Where I had moved to New York, I would have to make this decision as well. Is you have to choose to like it, because it is easy to find the things that you do not like about it in about a heartbeat, and then it takes you 2 or 3 years to meet the people that you actually want to hang out with.
Yeah.
Because initially you just hang out with whoever's around because you don't want to be alone.
Yeah.
And then about a year or so or 2 years in, you meet maybe 2 people, and you're like, these are my seed people.
Yeah.
Who do they know?
Yeah.
And so 20 years in, I've got dozens and dozens of lovely people that are human and decent.
I found that I've been here about 5 years, and when I left New York, I was like in a state of like rapturous love with New York.
Oh, okay.
Like I would, and I still feel this way when I go back. How long were you there? I lived there for 8 years.
Okay.
And at about 5 years in, this is why I'm thinking, I've been in LA 5 years, maybe they'll start to kick in. At about 5 years in, I started to feel that way, where literally I would go walk down the street in New York, and it didn't matter what kind of day it was, anywhere or what neighborhood I was in, everything my eye would fall on, I would just feel like that's beautiful. That is so beautiful. Like I love that building. Yeah. I love that person. I love that like overflowing trash can. Like
whatever it is.
Like not obviously not everything is beautiful, but I was like, God, I just love the way the city looks. I'm like finding beauty everywhere. There's something interesting to look at. And when I came to LA, I was like, this place is so fucking ugly. Mm-hmm. That's how I felt.
Right.
And I would love to try to get a little bit of positive feeling about
one of my favorite things about Los Angeles, because I love Los Angeles, I genuinely do, is that 3 times a year is different flowers, different flower times. Because of the
that's great.
Because of the seasons.
Yes.
It's kind of like there's like 3 falls and 3 springs.
Yes.
And you're like, oh look, that thing's blooming. What is that? And
once I started noticing jacarandas.
Yes.
Right, I was like,
we planted one out front because jacarandas are the best.
They're the best tree.
It's such a great tree.
And there's a lot of people saying that should be the tree of Los Angeles. Fuck the palm tree, which is our unofficial
palm trees,
tree.
Yeah, that's dumb.
The jacaranda tree.
You know what else is gorgeous that they have here? Is magnolias. Have you seen the magnolias?
There's magnolias on. They don't. Do they bloom?
Yeah, they do.
There's magnolias on my street, but I don't think I've seen them bloom.
Well, look forward to it. You will look up and you'll see a giant white flower.
That is, yes, they bloom white. That's gorgeous.
And you're like, what? And mimosas, those are gorgeous.
You want to hear my favorite fact about Los Angeles?
Yes, please.
About the seasons. So people say about LA, they say, there's no seasons here, right? They'll say that. Or they will say, hold on a second, it's June, why is it so cold? Or they'll say, it's October, why is it so hot? It's supposed to be, they'll say things like that, right?
Okay.
It's October, it's fall, why is it 90 degrees in fall? That's what people will say. What they don't realize is LA does have seasons. It just does not have 4 seasons. Like it is not a like East Coast temperate climate
Right.
that has spring, summer, fall, and winter. It has a rainy season and a dry season. Much like, say, if you go to, India, right? They have a dry season and like a monsoon season. Don't go during monsoon season. So here, there's a dry season, and the dry season stretches from like what is it? It's like March.
Probably
through,
March.
Yeah, March
Yeah.
through like November.
Right.
And then a wet season that goes from November through. And so that is, that is
It
the
usually
division.
rains in January and February.
Exactly.
It's been changing a lot lately. I used to do a bit about how there's 2 seasons, and it is exactly that, which
Yeah.
is fire and flood. And
Exactly, right.
And I always get a call from my parents.
That's great.
Asking if I'm okay, and I
Yeah.
always tell them to live near a hill or a tree. You have to have a giant bag of money, and I couldn't be safer if there's ever a sweeping strip mall fire.
Exactly.
I'm fucked.
But what happened is people, because, white settlers, whatever,
Right.
like that strain of American culture, moved from the East Coast to the West Coast. Those are the season words that we're stuck with. And as a result, people have a blindness to the seasons in LA.
Right.
They say, it's summertime, or there's no seasons here, and they have a neglect for the actual seasons that actually exist. And they don't understand the way
Right.
the actual seasons of the area work.
As of right now, Los Angeles is in what I like to call post-Halloween crazy driver season. And it goes from about Halloween to January 4th. And it's because daylight savings makes it dark at 5:30.
Yeah.
And everyone's like, I have so much stuff to do. I'm going to drive like a crazy person. January 4th, they're like, that's over, and then it slows down again. It's nice, but it is amazing. If you look around, you'll notice that the driving is banana land.
Yeah.
But one of the other things. Matter of fact, I'm going to dork out. I'm
Please.
talking, by the way, with Adam Conover, just so everybody
me.
knows. It's you. It's Adam Conover, and it's at Adam Conover everywhere you want to go.
Yeah.
You have a podcast on Earwolf called Factually.
I do.
Adam Ruins Everything is available all the places, as you know, and God knows what I was about to say because I wanted to make sure everybody knew your name again.
What was it?
It was if only we had a producer who could say, "I'm writing things down." One of the great, I mean, there are so many great things about Los Angeles that I do love. And it could be anything. Kurt Braunohler. Let's talk about
Yeah.
Kurt. He likes to go, because when he lived in New York, he used to have this thing where he blindfolded people and took them, and then he would unblindfold you, and you had to guess where you were. And he took me to, I think, a college that was literally 20 minutes away from here. And I felt like I was in the Central Valley of California.
Wow.
I felt like we had traveled for approximately 3 hours into
Yeah.
nothing.
Yeah.
And then we saw some of the most racially insensitive and sexually insensitive, really shitty statues that have been made by a guy in the 50s who had a motel and decided to make a Western-themed statuary.
Wow.
And then he donated them to this weird college. And so, but he, if you ever get to talk to Kurt, he took Kyle Kinane, for example. There's tunnels underneath Los Angeles that I don't know anything about, but he took him to those. So he knows about all the different sort of weird places.
Does he record himself
Yes.
doing this to people? Okay, he doesn't just do it.
No, it's not just a fun fact. No, he records it, and you get in his car, he puts a blindfold on you, and then...
Wow.
But in
That sounds
New
fun.
York, he would take you on the subway blindfolded and record that.
That sounds great.
Yeah.
I would like to play that game.
Right. I don't know if he's still doing it. I know the space... Are you here? No. And so this will go up on the 26th of November, I believe. Do you have anything that you would like to plug besides the things that I have spoke of?
Oh, I mean, listen to Factually while you're eating your Thanksgiving dinner.
Chop, chop.
Yeah, if you don't want to talk to your family, just listen to it.
Podcasts are amazing.
Yeah, or while you're doing those dishes,
Right.
While you're doing all those Thanksgiving, because I know what you're gonna. I know your plan is you've had Thanksgiving dinner with your family, and you're so fucking sick of them, you can't talk to them anymore, and you say, you know what? I'm going to do the dishes because that will buy me a moment's peace and I can listen to a podcast and no one will bother me and I can be in my own space.
Interesting. Right.
That's what you'll do. And so listen to my podcast, Factually, where I interview
if for some reason you've chosen to hang out with family members you don't like. I'm a huge fan of saying to my family members I don't like, we're not hanging out. And I'm a huge fan of just own it. Just own the fact that you're a grown-up and you don't have to hang out with anybody who's mean to you.
For real.
Genuinely. It's okay. If they're mad about it, they're going to bitch about it when you're not there. That's going to be another good thing. And then one of your relatives who thinks that you want to know will tell you what was said about you when you weren't there, and then you'll get to say these words. I don't actually need to know that.
The incredible thing about family members is that they'll be your family forever.
Sure.
I mean, you can cut people out of your life if you really have to, but for the most part, they're family members forever.
Right.
So you don't have to keep up with them in order for you to still be family members with them.
That is so. You could not be more true.
A college friend you have to maintain a relationship with because then you might never not know them anymore.
Right.
But,
they will weed off on you.
Yeah, but a family member. Someone's going to die, and you're going to have to go to a family reunion.
You're going to reconnect. You're going to see that person, and you're going to think to yourself, oh, yeah.
You don't need to do it voluntarily because it's going to happen anyway. So,
do you have any big trips coming up? I've been doing a lot of traveling this year.
No, none coming up.
You going to New York at all?
I have done some. No, I am trying to scheme a way where I can spend a couple months a year in New York is what I would like to do. I've been talking to my alma mater about maybe teaching a little comedy seminar or something like that for like a month,
right? Where they would put you up.
Oh. Yeah, I think they would pay me almost nothing, but it would be like enough.
Did you go to Cornell?
No, I went to Bard College upstate New York.
Okay.
And I love upstate New York and the Hudson Valley, and I was like, if that might give me an excuse, if I plan out a year in advance, I can like just spend a month there, do a bunch of New York City stand-up, take the Metro North train up to the college and get some nice fall colors going.
Sure, autumnal.
Like that's sort of like a fantasy of mine is to do that. I have no other specific plans to go to New York, but of course I end up going a couple times a year.
Right. I like to go to New York for like 2 weeks.
Yeah.
And do as many shows as I can and remind the people of New York City that I exist.
Yeah.
And I haven't been able to put 2 weeks together. I'm going this weekend, which will be past.
Yeah.
For two, like essentially Friday and Saturday night.
Yeah.
And so I'm going to do a bunch of shows on Friday, and then I'm going to do my other podcast, The Jackie and Laurie Show.
Yeah.
Live at the Stand on Saturday.
Oh, that's wonderful. Where else do you get up when you're out there?
Well, I usually do all the sort of bars and alti stuff because I love those rooms.
Love them.
But this time I'm doing the Stand and New York Comedy Club, and I get to do because I as I told both of them, I said I want to do what Kilmartin does, so I'm doing 7 shows on Friday night, like a real New York comic does.
Wow.
I wouldn't want to do it at length. I'm willing to do it once.
Yeah.
How about that?
Yeah.
So I'm doing 4 at the Stand and 3 at the New York Comedy Club.
Feels so great. You're bouncing around. Bing bong, bing bong.
Yeah. It's like a thing, and it's just it's a way to. I mean, I guess I'm going to just work on that 1 15-minute chunk.
Yeah.
But
you go.
You know what? There's a part of me. How about this? I do 7 different 15-minute chunks. Better idea. More fun for everyone. Certainly me.
You got to change it up a little bit. Otherwise,
Did you used to do that or?
Did I used to do
the clubs and stuff over there?
No, I never did clubs in New York. I did all alt shows and bar shows and things like that. Although now all my friends who are stand-ups who are still in New York are all at the Cellar, which I didn't expect because that was like the place that I literally have never been inside the Cellar because
I've been in the restaurant.
I've never. Because I was like, I'm never going to go to a club that I'm not booked on because I don't want to,
And you know why? Because you just want to go, I can pick up a set and I'm not famous enough.
Yeah.
So,
and you want them to see you and go like, oh, you're not on the show, so you must be here to suck up to us powerful gatekeepers. Like, no, fuck it.
Right. I'm like, I will suck up if it will result in me getting some work.
And if they're chill about it. But, But so, I like
But the Cellar is not chill in any way, shape, or form that I've ever been there. So.
Yeah. And so it's not a place that anybody I knew was ever up at. Like occasionally someone I knew would like get a tryout set and we'd be like, oh, incredible.
Yeah.
And now like all of my...
They're all in?
Yeah, Sean Donnelly is a good friend
Oh,
of mine.
cool.
And, people
and they're
like
all
that.
passed and,
They're all
and they
passed,
get to go
they're all
up.
doing good. They're all getting weird in that basement, you know.
Right.
People get weird down there. But yeah, I just have a lot of stuff at UCB and things like that. Of course,
I like the UCB, and then
doesn't really exist in New York anymore, sadly. But
they sort of collapsed in on themselves.
Assassinated their own comedy business.
Yeah,
but, yeah,
that is weird. But Brooklyn's really weird because it's hard to get around.
Yeah,
and I'm like, I would always spend more money on Lyft than I made. Like some of those gigs would pay $20 or $30, but you'd end up spending $150.
Weird to me to be in because I left New York before Lyft was in, Uber and Lyft were in, and then I came to LA, and I'd been to LA before, but with Uber and Lyft, it's like, oh my God, it made it livable, you know?
Yeah.
Now I take the bus and subway around as much as I can, but...
Do you have a car?
I don't have a car. I
Oh,
don't
interesting.
drive. I quit driving. And coming back to what made me like... LA more was a year or two ago. I quit driving, and it made me like Los Angeles much better.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah, because it's just that is how I prefer to get around.
Yep.
Today, I tried to come here. I took the red line to North Hollywood, and then I'll hop on a bus, and then I realized I wasn't going to make it in time. So I took a Lyft from there. So I took a Lyft half the way from.
That's not bad. Yeah, and I can give you a ride back to the red line.
That would be amazing because then it's like. Yeah, I mean,
I'm doing a set over the hill, but it's on Sunset, so I don't know where you live. But
I live in Los Feliz. Well, I don't want to tell people on this podcast where we can. Do
I live
this
in
after we
Van
get
Nuys.
offline.
And we could totally do this. You guys, longitude, latitude, gonna give it to you in Morse code. Rangers, you got it. Hey, we are at an hour here, but let me just say that we did not talk about Nintendo much at all.
No, that was what we said we were going to, which is my dorkdom.
Which you love Nintendo a great deal, but I have to say, you'll have to just come back because this was great. This was fantastic.
I had a wonderful time.
Thank you for coming on. I'm going to look into some PG tips.
PG tips. Gotta get it.
And I may watch a walkthrough of Final Fantasy 15 just for the food.
Final Fantasy 15, incredible. Watch A Wind Rises by Hayao Miyazaki.
Right.
And watch a Wong Kar-wai movie. Watch In the Mood for Love. Very romantic movie. It's one of those movies where the characters never kiss, but it's so horny.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
What's it called?
In the Mood for Love.
Okay.
And it's about these two. Do you want to hear the plot of the movie?
What is it? Which one was this?
The Hong Kong people.
The Hong Kong one.
In the 60s. And it's these two couples, and they realize it's about cheating and suppressed desire.
Sure.
And people expressing their suppressed desire using the politest language.
Yes.
Like the horniest thing someone says is, "I like your new necktie," and everyone is like, "Oh, that is." She just confessed that she's so fucking horny right now, which is incredible. So
that it does make me. A couple episodes ago, I had a person on whose name is escaping me. Congratulations. Welcome to watching the sieve of aging process. Anyway, except for that I was like this when I was young. Can't remember shit. But it was about, I ended up watching a Chinese vampire movie on
I heard you talking about this on the Jackie and Laurie show.
Yeah, and it was fascinating. Who knew that Chinese vampires were so dum-dums?
Yeah.
They're dum-dums, and they walk really weird, and they are hilarious. Mm-hmm. And the only way you can neutralize them is to take like a receipt and stick it to their forehead.
Yeah.
And but I believe it's more than a receipt.
And that's what I love about also foreign films is watching Hayao Miyazaki movies. You get a sense of Japanese folklore and folk religion and just that sort of way of looking at the world, you know, like a different set of assumptions about how ghosts work.
Yep.
And how spirituality operates in a way that's really nice. Love it. So great.
Yep. We are all for trying out somebody else.
Instant Pot. You got to get an Instant Pot.
That's it. Adam Conover, thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thanks for having me.
I'm going to turn the thing off. Anyway, Rangers, you know the rules out there. Take care of each other.
My hat, my hat, my hat. They're dancing around my hat. My hat, my hat, my hat. Well, what do you think of that? If it looks like a Mexican hat dance and it sounds like a Mexican hat dance, it's most likely a Mexican hat dance. So take off your hat and let's dance.
Yay! Oh my God. Why don't we just call that as the end of the show?